now drive, and they will be using that intersection more now because of high school as they drive to school, and that's going to be a very tough corner between the school traffic, the elementary school, the high school traffic, the elementary school traffic, and the construction and so on. So it's going to, I think, I appreciate that reconsideration. With regard to speed and the concerns there, some years ago at town meeting, we approved an electronic speed sign for our police department. And they've had that for a number of years. And that might be a good idea to put strategically somewhere on in this route to show what the speed people are traveling at.
I think it's broken. I think that came up at the last meeting. We did talk about it, but it's inoperable.
Does that fix it? See if we can somehow fund that, but I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah.
It is quite old, and I don't think it's operable.
Yeah, well, I hope it's functional.
I'm sorry, John, I just want, some people can't hear. The device that Mr. Yule is speaking about, the police department does have it. It needs repair, so they're looking to get an estimate as to cost to repair that particular device.
Right. And I think Maureen's issue, a concern about safety on that corner is really key to be included in that study. Again, it's highly traveled by foot, and it's highly traveled vehicularly. So the 28 route seems to be really the best, and possibly I think the study's going to show that that's the best route to go as far as what we're looking to accomplish. As far as the, what do you call it, the traffic calming devices are concerned, I think that when I was on the board and we were talking about it, it seemed like a pretty good alternative and kind of meeting everyone's needs at that point. I think the fire chief had a legitimate argument at that time with the concern that of restricting their ability to access people who need the ambulance or the fire department having to get there in a very speedy time. So that's an issue too. I think, again, if we can hopefully come to the solution, that hopefully the solution is Route 28, I think that would that satisfy everybody. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Messeri.
I think in summary then, what I think I've heard is, one, that we want to put at least this filing for a truck exclusion on hold. Is that what you were referring to, Mr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Two is that we need to go out and find out how much a traffic study is going to cost. And we need to find out whether or not we can use the state money or road money, Chapter 90 money to fund the study.
Just so I'm
If
clear,
not,
what scope are you looking for?
Excuse me?
Yeah, sorry.
And if not, then once we know what it's going to cost, we can look at available funds, and if they're not available, we'll have to consider adding those funds in a line item at the October town meeting.
You summed it up pretty well. The DPW director is looking for us to give him some parameters as to what we're looking for.
Are we looking just to evaluate those three possible options to give a recommendation as to the feasibility?
I would say no. Mr. Chairman. And
Go ahead.
what I would be looking for is to hire this traffic engineer to tell us what our options are.
Options for what?
Options for truck exclusion, Chestnut, New Street. All right, because
Right.
that's originally what we were talking about. I mean, let's
So, yeah,
not
look
lose
at
sight
those-
of what we were originally looking to do here, which was, you know, a truck exclusion on Chestnut and New Street. Right?
So again, to look at the three alternatives or alternate
And
routes.
then let this engineer tell us what our alternatives are under the DOT guidelines, what our options are.
I think we're saying the same thing.
But I think we're leaving a piece out. I think we're leaving the piece out that was addressed by Mrs. Vacher and Mr. Yule in terms of the safety issue on the intersection of Chestnut and Havel Street.
That actually is that's a whole separate big issue,
Yeah.
to be honest. It is being looked at through a,
We'll keep it separate.
Yeah, I think
Well, that's what,
we can't lose sight of it, but I think
You can add that, but that's not an easy fix, and that's gonna.
that's
I don't see an issue with adding it, but it's gonna be.
The fix to that is a signalized intersection, which
Right.
we know is $500,000 plus. That would solve that problem. It's clearly people are going too fast. It needs to have stop lines.
I understand, but we discussed it. I don't want people walking away saying, okay, you ended up doing this traffic engineering study that it only dealt with truck traffic on Chestnut and New Street. If that's what we want to do, then I just want to be clear to the public, that's what we're doing. Is I don't want 6 months from now, people are coming back saying, well, you did this study, spent this money, but you didn't address this issue that we discussed on July 9th.
Would it be worth our while, Dick, then to get an estimate for, separately for both?
Sure.
But I can tell you from experience, and I agree with Dick, that's construction involved with that intersection.
That's construction, that's land taking, that's a lot of work. Just like the high school when
Talking-
park
A
is
lot
going to
of
be.
money.
Yeah, a lot of work and a lot of money.
So yes, I can get scopes for both of those two items. I suggest that we both do them independently though,
Right.
at this time.
And other than, I would expect that the traffic engineer looking at the truck exclusion would be cognizant of that intersection and the effects of whatever alternative route
Right.
may be on that.
There is mass highway data for crashes, and you can look at it relative to a baseline. The traffic engineer that did the work for the high school, if you have that report, they do an analysis based on what the statewide average is on this type of road. So that's relatively easy for the engineers to get that. And there's mass highway data on every crash in Massachusetts. Every time you fill that accident report, it goes through the local police to the registry, and it's online. So they have online up to 2009 right now, back forever. I've accessed 5 years of data, and it's pretty telling about intersections in town.
Mr. Yule?
Yeah, thank you. To Mr. Delaney's point, can the DOT, doing their study, not approve it because the alternate route is not safe? Can they refuse that? And if that's the case, and we haven't done our study, so the question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we do a safety study first to see if it's feasible to do a truck exclusion? I think
Based upon
that's
what
the
I've heard
concern.
the last couple of weeks, the likelihood is that the Mass DOT, based upon what we're about ready to propose, would probably say no.
Right.
You know, and not just necessarily because of
I would-
Chestnut and Haverhill, but it's because of up by the schools, up by the Arias.
And I would expect the study engineer is going to come back and not have 62 to Havel Street as
I
an
hope so.
alternative.
I hope
I don't
not.
see why.
Well, can I also add again, I'm
Thank you.
sorry, Barbara Duff, just to answer your question. I went to the Department of Transportation and I spoke to someone. They don't get into the total safety as far as, people, pedestrians and crossing. They're engineers looking at the bridge safety and the road, can it handle the trucks, and the width. They sometimes say they don't even come to the actual location. So it's up to the town to decide if the alternative route is proper, safe, and,
Mr. Foley,
okay.
I think
So,
Mr. Foley
yeah.
can address that. We got some clarification.
I did.
believe me.
Yeah.
I spoke to the stuff, and I appreciate the information.
Was that Mark?
I spoke to Mark Kratman,
Kratman, yeah, okay.
and then he actually forwarded me to Mike Harris, who's the traffic operations person, who actually would take the application in. Mr. Kratman is just a kind of a community relations person.
Okay.
So he told you his knowledge, the other gentleman, Harris, wasn't in. I did
Yeah.
speak to him today, and they said they absolutely come out to every single one. They do
Okay.
take safety into consideration also, but the majority of it is based on road
Bridges
condition.
and- yeah.
Can they make turns?
Right,
And stuff
right.
like that, but then they
Okay.
also look at safety issues
Yeah,
also.
I kind of figured it would be more up to the town, too, to know what we're doing as an
Right,
alternative.
right.
Makes sense,
The good news,
so.
like I said, they look at it, make a recommendation to the Boston office headquarters, and then they come up
Yeah.
and do the exact same thing all over again.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So as far as the intersection at Haverhill and Chestnut Street, we're gonna get a separate scope on that particular proposal from the traffic study engineer to look at separately to find out exactly what the cost is.
Correct.
So two separate scoping, but obviously, on the major scoping issue, when we're talking about here, the truck exclusion on Chestnut New Street, I'm sure you'll make the traffic engineer, whoever gets the job, aware and cognizant of that intersection and our concerns related to it.
Okay. We have a motion?
To reconsider.
Consider.
Motion. No.
Good.
Can you read? I don't believe she has.
Mr. Fode moved to reconsider our previous vote on the truck exclusion proposal,
Seconded by Mr.
seconded by
O'Leary.
myself.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We need a separate motion on,
For whatever we want to do.
go ahead, good luck, Mr. Fode.
I'll make a motion that the Director of Public Works put together a scope of services for engineering, traffic engineering services for truck exclusion on Chestnut at New.
Just that and new.
Chestnut and New, and also a separate scope of services for the intersection of New and Haverhill and Chestnut.
Second.
You want me to put the scope together or get quotes from?
Get quotes, I'm sorry,
Or
quotes.
an RFP? Should be an RFP. Any further discussion?
So, let's make it clear, we have a puzzled look over here.
Want me to do it slow for you?
But just direct Public Works to put together an RFP for,
Okay, good.
yeah,
Yep.
instruct the Director of Public Works to put together a request for proposal for a traffic engineering study for truck exclusion, Chestnut and New Street. And an additional request for proposal for a traffic study at the intersection of Haverhill and Chestnut Street.
And get quotes.
And get quotes.
That's,
My only concern is if we limit the scope to a truck exclusion, do we eliminate other alternatives to reducing truck traffic on Chestnut and New Street? People follow me?
Yeah, I have the same thought.
It seems like the RFP we're requesting to go out is just for a truck exclusion. There may be other options
Traffic calming
Up-
measures.
other than just a truck exclusion on Chestnut and New Street.
Well, we can't do a truck exclusion on Route 62, so that eliminates Winter Street altogether. So in other words, we only have a short area that we.
No, but my point is, are there other alternatives other than a truck exclusion that would reduce traffic on Chestnut and New Street?
Right.
okay,
I don't know if
so
we're limiting our scope by saying
I'll
an
amend my motion.
RFP for the sole purpose of coming up with a truck exclusion,
Traffic exclusion and/or traffic calming measures.
not traffic calming. I think it's truck traffic is actually the issue. The reduction
All right, I'm
in
gonna
truck.
amend my motion.
Mr. Misery.
Just, I think if we go back to what's the intent? You know, what are we trying to do? We're trying
It's a
to
truck exclusion.
eliminate
Truck
truck traffic
Right, or to reduce it.
or reduce it.
Because if he comes back and we have to, the only alternative, the engineer may say the only alternative we can give them, according to their regs, is 62 to Haverhill Street. I don't think we're going to do it.
So
we
given
need-
the fact that we want to either reduce or eliminate the truck traffic, then the scope should be for a traffic engineer to review the alternatives for attaining that goal.
Right.
And that could be anything from
Okay, so the.
making the road a dead end to
Right, to a truck exclusion.
One way?
a truck exclusion, or
That's a
one way or whatever, right?
The way it's worded now, though, actually allows you to do that. It gives you the flexibility.
I don't think so, because I think the scope of services that we're sending the RFP for would be for solely a truck exclusion.
Well, I didn't write that down. What I heard was Director of DPW to obtain an RFP for a traffic engineering study for Chestnut and New Street.
You missed for a truck exclusion.
I know, that's why I deleted the words. Why don't we just leave it at that?
But that's not the motion right now.
I think we have to go back to what's the goal,
Right.
and to tie the scope into the goal, without defining the method.
I think the way you type
Hiring a
it,
traffic engineer to do that.
RFP, traffic study. For the purpose of reducing truck,
or eliminate.
truck traffic on Chestnut and New Street, up to and including an exclusion.
Very good.
So that's,
Mr. Cannavale?
The consultants I spoke to from a practical standpoint, we have Monahan lumber there, and DPW and electric light, those three account for About 40% of the total vehicles on that
You
street.
said 25%, I think. again.
25.
You said 25%.